Hello everyone, my name is Ryan from JMG Reptiles, and this is the Gecko Talk podcast. Today we have a special guest, Jeff from JMG Reptiles. How are you, Jeff?
Doing good. Thanks for having me, Ryan.
Awesome. Well, it's definitely been awesome to, get you on the podcast. I've definitely one of my biggest inspirations overall in the reptile community. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, happy to hear that. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, so we'll get into some questions and you'll talk about it. So how did, to start things off, how did you get into leopard geckos?
My dad had actually bred leopard geckos right around before I was born, and he probably sold most of his geckos by the time I was 6 years old. But one of my earlier memories, I remember him hatching out some baby leopard geckos, and he mainly actually worked with different frogs. He had like Argentine horned frogs, tomato frogs. He had a few other species. I know he actually was breeding African clawed frogs too. He had a lot of other species too. I can't remember exactly which or how many he had, but he also had a lot of redfoot tortoises.
Oh, nice.
And so he sold off most of his geckos. I remember he had some African fat-tailed geckos too. But he had sold most of that stuff off by the time I was like 6 years old. And I was always interested in reptiles and amphibians, probably because I was, exposed to them and everything. And we had this old North American, Audubon, stuff, reptiles and amphibians. And I always really liked the pictures of eastern milk snakes and stuff. So I always really wanted snakes. And so my first interest was snakes. And it wasn't until after owning a few snakes, and actually I really liked African fat-tailed geckos. I thought they were really cool. And so I got one of those as a pet. And I wasn't really allowed to have too much stuff right off the bat. I had like couple snakes and an African fat tail, and then I seen a hognose snake for the first time when I was like probably like 8.5, and then I just really wanted a hognose snake. And so by the time I was 11 years old, I had a pair of hognose. I actually had bred them, and because I was reading on how to do that, how you should mimic brumation and everything, and I bred them in 10-gallon aquariums. And my dad came home from work, and I was like, "Hey, Dad, my hognose is laying eggs." He's like, "What?" And he's like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah." He didn't probably think that that I was taking it too seriously. And he actually, because he used to work with reptiles and amphibians, and he bred geckos and quite a few redfoot tortoises. So he helped me incubate them, because that's the one thing I didn't prepare for, was like, I don't know how to incubate these things.
Yeah.
So he goes, we'll go set them up, and he goes, I got some peat moss, and stuff. We'll put them on that. And now I use all cocoa coir when I incubate. But anyhow, and so actually I bred hognose before I even owned a leopard gecko. And it wasn't until I was like 12 years old, because I'd always read Reptiles magazine, and seeing the different, which there weren't as many back then, but just seeing all the different variations and the line bred traits, and they had blizzards back then were just coming out. They had a Murphy patternless, which they called cystics back then a lot of times. Then they're trumper and bell albinos, and you'd see jungles, and they'd call them like designer jungles, and some really nice just variabilities in them that where you'd see with their colors and patterns. And so I read a few articles in Reptiles magazine about breeding leopard geckos, and the appeal to me was I was like, wow, these things, you can raise them up and breed them much quicker than snakes, and there's so many different colors and different projects you could do, because genetics was very interesting to me early on, and I got interested in genetics and reptiles from reading Reptiles magazine, because my dad, he'd always get that monthly, and he'd always take me to reptile shows, because I was always bugging him take me to reptile shows. By the time I was like 9, he had sold pretty much all of his redfoot tortoises. And so by the time I was 12, I was actually buying leopard geckos and keeping them for, projects and stuff. And I was struggling to do it, because I'd have to save up birthday money or do chores and stuff. And so my allowance and the money that I was able to save up was very difficult to get much.
Yeah.
And, so I had like 3 or 4 leopard geckos I had bought at like 35, they were around like $30, $35 each. I remember I bought this really high yellow male, actually from Mark Bell, for like $35, and he gave me $5 back, and he's like, "Here, I'll help the kid out." And I'm like, I was all excited. And then after like getting leopard geckos for a while, and then it reignited my dad's passion. And he goes, "Hey," "you want to breed the leopard geckos together. And he goes, and basically, in short, I have money because I'm an adult and you don't, and we can do a lot cooler stuff if we do it together. I'm like, I was enthralled. I was like, yeah, let's do that. And so then we started. By the time I was like really like 13, we started getting a decent amount of leopard geckos. I can't remember. I know the first ones we bought were actually like Posset, Trumper, albinos and stuff. And actually, I didn't even really know too much about it. Like I knew a little bit about genetics. Like I knew that these were like hereditary traits, but it wasn't really until I was like 14 where I started getting actually a good grasp of how this stuff worked.
Yeah.
Because I remember like when I was 12, the first few like leopard geckos we got, I got like high yells, but then when I was buying stuff with my dad, we got some Posset Trumper albinos, and I thought the Possets were actual hets. Luckily, they actually turned out to be het, but they weren't guaranteed. They were like 50% Possets, and I thought they were. I thought they were carrying the gene because it was like, oh, it's Poss, het Trumper albino, and so I kind of looked up, and I didn't quite understand it. I didn't really have anybody to tell me, and but then, like, my dad and I, as we progressed, we learned, quite a bit. And, because he knew quite a bit about stuff, but he actually wasn't really into genetics. Back in the late 80s and early 90s when he was breeding, there wasn't actually a whole lot of genetic traits, being worked. So, of course, there was, like, albino Burmese pythons and, albino ball pythons had come out, just not too, long after he got out of it. There was other stuff, but there wasn't a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's how we kind of started out. And it wasn't until, by the time I was, 15, I mean, things actually progressed very quickly. By the time I was 15, I had myself fairly well educated, especially for the time. And my dad was, equally as on par, if not, much further with that. And he's very good at problem solving and, figuring things out. And we had a lot of different projects going by then, whether it be like tangerine trumper albinos and different lines of jungles, and we had blizzards, just albino stuff. And it wasn't until, I want to say it was timelines and stuff, it was the mid 2000s where there's a lot of cool stuff started. Leopard gecko market really blew up then.
Yeah,
that's when we went even heavier into it.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, how about we go on to the second question?
Okay.
All right. So for the second question, you've been mainly focusing on hognose, but you also have the leopard geckos still. What morphs are you working with now in current times?
Right now, I have blood stuff. That's a lineage that my dad and I started with way back. Actually, that's one of our first tangerine projects. We started getting these really burnt orange ones, and at that time, super hypos were actually very popular. And super hypo tangerines, and we kind of we were doing our own projects and stuff. And the one thing we know is everybody's doing tangerines and it's super hypos, and they're all kind of following the same lines. They're let's try to breed for an orange saturated color one that's darker, more has more burnt colored qualities, rustier colored.
Yeah.
And something that actually has spots. We're we're not going to focus on trying to remove spots. Let's just try to breed both color saturation. If they come out with more spots, they come out with more spots. If ones are a little less spots, we'll use those. Whatever is the darkest orange and deeper, more burnt colors. And so that's a project I still do today. I actually have some bloods that are close to pure. A lot of them have purple head incorporated into them. Purple head reacts very well with blood, which is that's a project from John Scarborough. And then I have hyperxanthic stuff. I've been revamping that and doing some very cool hyperxanthic basically projects that incorporate other line bred traits, but and incomplete dominant. So I have next codominant snow in them, or incomplete dominant snow. They used to call them codoms, but anyhow, so I have a lot of hyperxanthic stuff. I also have some red stripe rainwaters, a lot of blood tremper, blood raptor, some stonewash project stuff too, that I'm trying to basically reline breed to have high quality stonewash that I used to have with my dad, like back in around like 2012.
Oh yeah, the stonewash. I've been getting so many messages though. People asking me for stonewash because one of my geckos kind of looks like a stonewash look. But yeah, it's I've definitely seen the stonewash as far as just like people asking around for it. It's starting to become more popular as far as demand.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that really like that look.
Yeah,
and that look was created with black blood. Which was kind of a spin-off of bloods. As we were line breeding for these darker burnt ones, we started getting ones that were very dark burnt, and it would come out with real brown, deep rusty colors, with some nice orange highlights, and they'd have a lot of pattern. And as we got these, bred them into trumpers, and the idea there was to make deeply, deep-colored albinos that were really color saturated. So the deeper, darker colors would react well with albinos, and you get closer like red pigmentation. Well, while doing that, we created this really kind of like nice pattern along with it too. Because as we were line breeding, and there was these animals that were holding a lot of dark pigments, a lot of pattern. When you put it in Trump albino, a lot of those dark pigments would be highlighted as like lavender. So then you get like, a lot of this like dark wash over these animals that in Trump albinos, as they matured, they would have more kind of shattered lavender pigment coming through to where all these little dark splotches in these black bloods, where it was appearing. And then, as we got the kind of caught on to it, like, hey, this is doing really cool stuff with pattern, but we kind of started going in that direction. And it wasn't until we were selling a couple of them, and we were just referring to them as really nice blood trumpers. And one person got them from us, and he goes, "Hey, these like look stonewash to me." He goes in their outward appearance. He goes, "These are very cool." And I'm like, "Well, this is this one project we're working on." And then as I noticed, as they're getting older, I was like, "Man, some of these things are turning really wild looking." And this guy's like, "I want more of these." And I'm like, I was like, "Yeah, same here." And then we just kind of adopted that name, Stonewash.
Oh, that's really cool. It's one of my favorite looks though too. I like the look for sure.
That's the thing too. When you're line breeding certain stuff, like certain projects, a lot of these things can be spun off in other directions, and a lot of times they're unexpected. From what was originally started. And so when you're line breeding something for many generations, you might get 6, 7, 8 years down the road, and you might start getting a very different look that's actually doing some pretty cool stuff that you can go in a different, take that in a different direction.
Yeah, that's really cool how that can start though. Don't you also work with Black Knights also?
Yeah, I do. You know what? Yeah, I'm surprised. I have quite a few Black Knight stuff and Black Knight projects. I have some Black Knight. Actually, one thing I produced that was pretty cool is about a year and a half, 2 years ago. He's breeding now. I produced Black Knight Super Snow Blizzard Eclipse.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's pretty neat looking. Just like pretty much looks like a Super Snow Blizzard, but much darker, and white legs and a white pied nose.
Oh, that's really neat. I was, where was it? I can't remember the person, but they were making Super Snow Black Knight Eclipse geckos, and one of them looked pretty cool. It was like all black and had like the little pied nose with the all black eyes.
I know Vegas Gecko just posted one that was very nice, hatchling. So it may have been them.
I think
that's a really good project. Yeah, I think they're calling that the Panda Pie project. Everybody's kind of shooting for that one. I got some things that are kind of related to that as far as project-wise, but it's not like a huge focus. But I do have quite a few Black Knight stuff, and I'm incorporating that as some things. So hopefully in a few years I can show some results with other things that I'm incorporating Black Knight into. Mm-hmm. And, I actually am producing quite a few of those. I don't produce many pures, but I produce a lot of high percentage Black Knights, and it's very fun. That's actually a really fun project because you see a lot of variability in those from, like, you're producing these, like, light colored ones to these, like, kind of like amber colored dark ones to these ones that are, of course, pure black.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, how about we get into the third question? So for the last question, Jeff, what do you think the future of leopard geckos is going to bring in the next couple of years?
I don't think it's going to change a whole lot. But I've watched the leopard gecko market from the time I was a little kid. When I first started getting interested around the age of 12, and so I've kind of watched it, evolve from, the morphs that were available then, and just the early stages of line breeding of designer stripes and tangerines and jungles, along with the, hereditary traits like Tremper Bell, Blizzard, and the leopard gecko market goes in cycles, and it's a very strong hobby because they make very good pets. There's a lot of diversity in the color mutations and a lot of cool variabilities, and they make such great pets, and they're popular across the world. Social media has really been a good platform for people to introduce the next generation, and even people that are just people in general that may be interested in getting a pet or even starting a new hobby. And right now I don't see any. There's people that are working on their own individual projects. I don't see anything hopefully something new comes out relatively soon that will ignite some more passion and hobby, line breeding and everything. But I think that stuff kind of already exists, so I don't really see it changing too much. I think it's going to be good in 2-3 years from now, and I think it's going to be good in 10 years from now. There's always bursts and booms where the only things that are kind of like that is people that mass produce them for pet stores and stuff, where you see some overproduction, and sometimes you'll see that overproduction and it'll drop prices, but the prices always kind of come back.
Yeah. And then, what do you think as far as, do you think that there will be new morphs in the next coming years, or?
Yeah, I mean, it depends, the morphs that, what I'd always like to ideally see is a new straight, hereditary trait, something that's, incomplete dominant,
mm-hmm.
Dominant, or something that's recessive. That would be extremely exciting. But, you can do almost equally as exciting stuff with, line breeding. But yeah, I think in the next few years, I mean, there's people that have projects that they're not really, being too loud about right now, because they're still working on them and trying to perfect them or get them to the point where they're comfortable with showing the results. So I got a couple projects like that, as well as some other people. I don't know when mine will be out exactly. Hopefully in the next couple of years. I'm thinking of one I'll be ready to release in actually maybe a year.
That's really cool.
Yeah, but it's a line bred, so it's not anything that that's it's consistent. It's different enough from anything out there, and
mm-hmm.
it's very consistent. Where I think it's definitely can be deserving of its own line, and it's something I've been working on for the past 7 years. It's a spin-off from an existing line-bred trait. It kind of was a very different look and started going in that direction and building off of that, and it's running very consistently now. It has very strong characteristics that really aren't seen in any other line-bred traits.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, what do you think about, as far as, I guess, with the new Cypher and stuff like that, and Blue Amber Eye, how do you think those are going to change the hobby as far as, stuff like that?
Well, the Blue Amber Eyes, they've kind of been out. That's a really nice looking trait in rainwater. Actually, those rainwaters are very, deep orange or very bright. That one, though, it's I look at that, and if I was to work with something like that, I would either want to incorporate something that's just going to boost that coloration, so I put, purple head or blood into it. Or something like Black Knight, something that, because we were talking about with the black waters, those are actually pretty good looking, so that would probably react very well with it, because we already have evidence that it will, if you're using the right lines of really nice lines of rainwater. So I think that one has potential, but especially going in the future. But it's one of those ones you don't want to do too much outcrossing with. You want to just continue in that line to just just build off of that look and just keep improving on it. Mm-hmm. And the Cyphers are cool. I don't know a whole lot about them. I've seen them. They got the nice, the very consistent reverse stripes. So it's nice to have a consistent line of reverse stripe gene. And I seen John had made a Bell version. The Bell version looked very nice. I'm sure he's already working on white and yellow. I'd really like to see white and yellow incorporated into it.
Yeah, it's definitely cool. I'm excited to. I know that they have like the all black eyes too, and it's not connected to Eclipse. But
yeah. Are they always solid black eye then? No Eclipse eyes. It's always solid black.
Yeah, I think they came from his, or the Cypher came from his Marble Eye project stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm excited to see how they progress in different albinos or just different crosses. Like some tangerine influence would be cool too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
It'd be definitely cool with some an all orange gecko with a spots but with a reverse stripe and all black eyes. That'd be definitely fairly interesting.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to see with like white and yellow because it's pretty clean looking and it looks like something that would react well with white and yellow. That they'd complement each other.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's been super awesome to have you on the podcast. I'm still dumbfounded that I got you on here, and I can't thank you enough for being on here. It was really fun.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Alright, well, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it, but definitely go see what Jeff has on his Instagram. He has some crazy hog noses, and his leopard geckos are stunning, but those hog noses, man, those are... I need to get some soon. Especially those super Arctics, I think.
The black and white ones. Yeah, they look very good.
Yeah, I like those.
Contrast.
Yeah, I like those. And then, what is it? Those pink ones, are they coral or something like that?
Yeah, corals, and then also the super Arctic albinos, the super Arctic albino condas, they're fairly pink as well.
Yeah, those are... Once I saw what you have as far as hog noses, I was kind of hooked.
Yeah, they've come a long way too. The hognose, the color combinations have really expanded in the last 5-8 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, all right. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.